Hey, it's Carlos and Linnea with Vertical Focus, and today we're visiting Lake Clark, a massive national park in southwest Alaska, full of grizzlies, mountains, and huge glacial lakes.
Today, we're visiting the spectacular wilderness and also taking off our last Alaskan National Park off the bucket list.
We'll be doing some wilderness camping, canoeing, and hiking in hopes of having an adventure. So make sure you stick around till the end to see what we end up discovering. Let's get into it. As with most Alaskan national parks, you can't drive to Lake Clark, so we're flying in on a chartered air service. The flight takes off from a smaller airport in Anchorage and lands in Port Allsworth around an hour and 15 minutes later. Before we get there though, I want to show you the flight out, as this was probably the most beautiful flight from our whole summer in Alaska. Right off the bat, you get some cool views of Anchorage and of the Cook Inlet as you cross the Lake Clark area. As you get closer, a significant part of the flight also passes over the national park itself, and we got some great views of a bunch of glaciers. The highlight though were the views of Mount Redoubt, a 10,000-foot volcano that is the highest point in the park. As we crossed the mountains, the weather got rainy, but we still got some great views of the huge glacial lakes the park is famous for. We'll be visiting some of these lakes later on in our trip. After landing, we picked up bear spray and fuel in Port Allsworth, as you can't fly with it. This was something we didn't think of before coming to Alaska, but it's a super important tip to keep in mind if you want to visit any of the remote parks that require flying to get to. We took advantage of a break in the rain to hike out to Kontrashibuna Lake, where we'll camp in the backcountry. Kontrashibuna Lake is a really beautiful blue glacial lake that's over 15 miles long. We'll be continuing our adventure via canoe from here as we explore the further recesses of the lake. As we paddled out to a campsite on the opposite shore, the lake was really calm and serene, as the rain had finally let up. We'll set up our camp here for tonight.
It's 10 p.m.
Yeah, it went by a lot faster than I thought.
You did.
Alright, well, I think it's probably time to head for bed, since it's already past 10. Hopefully we can get up early tomorrow, go further on the lake, get some wildlife viewing in.
Let's do it.
As morning dawned, we got up early and started out to paddle further down the lake. The early morning wind was blowing briskly, and the sky was mostly overcast as we began our exploration. Alright, we've landed at kind of a random spot, and we're just going to go up the hill and see what we find. Looks like we made our first discovery. Looks like a jawbone of something pretty big. What do you think? Probably a moose?
Maybe. Look at those teeth.
Yeah, it looks kind of like plant-eating kind of teeth. So it's probably a moose with this size. Pretty cool. Just lying here. Probably been there a while. As we crested the top of the hill, the sun started shining out more brightly, and we got some beautiful views back down the lake. There's a lot of sustenance gatherers in Port Allsworth. We're not very well versed in what berries are poisonous and which are not, so we will leave them. But there's a lot out here. One of the reasons Lake Clark became famous was because of a man named Richard Pronek, who came out here at the age of 51 and lived alone in a cabin by a lake like this one for almost 30 years. His story inspired a lot of people to visit places like this, and his cabin is still up there by the Twin Lakes. What a beautiful day out on the lake. It's really empty out here. We haven't seen a single human since yesterday when we got into the boat. After paddling back to the west end of Kontrashibuna Lake, we unloaded and stowed the canoe in preparation for our next adventure. We've successfully made it back to our original starting point with the canoe. We're now going to be going up Tanalian Mountain, a steep hike that will give us sweeping views over the whole Lake Clark area. Along the way, we made a short stop at Tanalian Falls, a beautiful and large waterfall along the river that connects Kontrashibuna Lake with Lake Clark, and watched the bright blue water pouring over the edge. We're making great progress on the hike. We've got about half a mile left, though it is pretty steep. We're starting to get some great views of Lake Clark and of Port Allsworth on this side. Welcome to the top of Tanalian Mountain. We've made it all the way up. It's quite steep, but it's definitely worth it for the views. On this side, we've got Lake Kontrashibuna, we've got Lake Clark on this side, Port Allsworth behind me, and the volcanoes of Lake Clark in that direction. From here, our campsite from last night is visible way down on the lake. As we made our way down the mountain, the sun started to sink toward the horizon. We arrived back at the edge of Kontrashibuna Lake and settled in for the sunset before our last night in Lake Clark. If you enjoyed this adventure, I'd encourage you to check out the other Alaskan National Park adventures. Each one has its own unique story and beauty.